I want to welcome on Jeremy Byron as well as Gen. Jeremy is the founder of Forecastly, and I'm really stoked to have him on today because inventory management is so incredibly important. And the more you grow, the more products you have, I think the more you realize this. Actually, just a few weeks ago, I was at the Seller Summit, and everyone loves to talk about how to optimize your listings, which of course is important. More PPC and all that kind of stuff. But if you really look at the numbers, probably proper forecasting and inventory management is where most people are leaving money on the table. So it's not the sexiest thing by any means to talk about, but it's super important nonetheless. The reason I brought up the seller summit that I was at is all of the we had a mastermind with a whole bunch of big sellers, and that was all of their number one problem was cash flow problems because they're ordering too much or too little inventory, and just staying in stock with how powerful the channel of Amazon is. So with that being said, I'm really happy to have you on, Jeremy. What's going on?
Thanks a lot. I'm just pumped to be part of the Jungle Scout crew for the afternoon. It's definitely fun.
Absolutely.
I think you hit the nail right on the head, Greg. I mean, a lot of folks are so focused on the marketing side of selling on Amazon, and it's really easy to forget about the basics. The basics being inventory management. A lot of folks just kind of push that to the wayside, especially as you're getting started in the first year or so, maybe even 2 years. I've seen folks selling on Amazon for a long time, and inventory management is at the bottom of their list. They're so focused on finding the next best product and increasing the ranking on their listings. And then there's money sitting right there on the table in front of them. And it's easy to forget that, hey, I have these products. If I just manage them better, then ensuring that they're not going out of stock or I don't have money tied up in inventory that's sitting on the shelf, you can make a lot more money on Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely.
This goes for any business.
I know me myself, I'm really guilty of this actually. I run out of stock way too often, and it's not only the money loss when you're out of stock for those days, but then my rank decreases when I get back in stock and I have to do a giveaway to kind of boost it back up there. So that's when I was really stoked to meet you and find out about Forecastly. So yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started on kind of I would think probably me and everyone else here has a lot to learn. So
cool. I think it would be good to kind of start at the basics, right? So talk about excess inventory. Talk about stockouts. So both of those, what are they? Why do they happen? How do we prevent them? And then we'll get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty. So talking about replenishing inventory and making sure that your products stay in stock. How do we do that? I'd like to throw out some tips. I mean, if any webinar that I attend, I think the main thing that I want to get is one tip that's going to make me more money. So I'll be happy if everyone can get at least one tip out of today's webinar that can make them more money starting today. And I think we should. I mean, we have some good stuff lined up. So we'll talk about, reducing stockouts, reducing excess inventory, and then the last piece that I'd like to get into, if we have time, is talking about new product orders. I get a lot of questions of, how many units do I buy the first time when I'm testing out an order and I'm trying to place an initial order for a product? So I think that's a good place to get into.
Excellent. That sounds good.
So excess inventory, and I think that's what I wanted to start with or talk about first. A lot of folks don't think about excess inventory and what excess inventory is, and there's a different definition as far as how much is excess, but excess just means that your inventory isn't turning over fast enough. So you have 6 months in stock or you have a year in stock, and what that means to you as a business, well, why do we care about it? If you're a seller, it's just cash that's sitting basically on Amazon's shelf that you can't spend on other products. So you want to have the next best product that comes out, and you're looking, you're sourcing products and looking for the newest thing, but you're worried that you don't have enough cash. Well, the first place to look is your existing inventory. So how do we prevent it? I mean, we see why we care, but how do we prevent it? And it all comes down to proper forecasting. I think that I see a lot of folks that they don't even look at excess inventory. They forget all about it. Now, stockouts. This is the obvious one, but not everybody understands a stockout or why it's important. So a stockout is simply your product goes out of stock for whatever reason, and there are a multitude of reasons, but the product goes out of stock on Amazon and it's not available for sale. So that's the part that we care about, right? I think you spoke about this or wrote about this in a recent blog post as far as why do we care. If, for anyone that's not aware, if a product goes out of stock on Amazon, Amazon takes it out of the search rankings if you are the only seller on that page. So if you search for jungle sticks, it doesn't show up in the listings. If you can get to the page, it'll just show unavailable. And then the more important piece is, if it isn't available for sale, that sale is going to go elsewhere. So they're going to buy a competitor product. Or if you have multiple sellers on your page, they're just going to buy it from one of your competitors. Either way, it's lost profit. I mean, it's profit that you're not going to get back. We're not selling the iPhone 7 here where people are going to wait 6 months. They're just going to go look at the next ASIN and see what they can find. Do you have any thoughts on that, Greg, as far as Jungle Sticks is concerned, and what you lost or that profit that was lost during the stock out? I think we might have lost Greg.
I lost Gregg.
That's all right. I'll keep talking about stockouts a little bit.
Sure.
That's cool. And if Greg, when Greg hops back on, he can maybe talk about the specifics as far as why it's important or how it was important to Jungle Sticks. The other thing that I want to talk about that a lot of folks forget is that when your product goes out of stock and it isn't for sale, there are a lot of people out there, including Gen and Greg, that can talk about bestsellers rank and how to rank well for keywords. But the piece that I know about is if you go out of stock and your product is no longer available for sale on Amazon, well, that's a problem because that bestsellers rank is all based on sales. And if your sales velocity goes way, way down, you can recover out after that, and you will recover, but it takes time. So say that your rank was 15,000 before the stock out, you go out of stock for 2 weeks, you come back on, most likely your rank is now going to be around 30,000 or 25,000, which might not sound like a big difference, but it takes time to recover. And that could be a matter of 10, 20, 30 units a day that you're missing out on. So it isn't necessarily just the revenue that you're missing while you're out of stock. It's also, once you kick back in, it takes some time to get going again. And now we talk about how do we prevent this, because that's what everyone cares about. That's what we all care about. Why do stockouts happen? I hear a lot of people say, and sometimes this is the reason, but a lot of folks say, well, I didn't order enough units. I didn't order enough inventory, and I went out of stock. Well, a lot of times that can be the reason, but a lot of times the reason why you have a stock out is that you didn't reorder fast enough. So it's not about how many to order. That's important as well, just not as important. It's more important to think about when to reorder. So I think, Greg, are you back now? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
No, not a problem at all. I was just talking about stockouts, and I know that you spoke a little bit on or wrote about the Jungle Sticks experience and that revenue that was lost during that period of time and how quickly you can add up.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. I think just kind of yesterday we went over this, and it's crazy, you know, that even when I was just out of stock for the short amount of time, like a few weeks ago, for like 5 days, you know, it's like $150 a day. So 7 days is $750 just for that one stock out. And then didn't you have a little graph about like if I were to just run out of stock for that same amount of time, like each month, how much would be lost over the course of a year?
Yeah, I have just an example here. Let me.
It's just kind of amazing. This doesn't even really take an effect. Like, you know, I was like in the #1 spot for marshmallow sticks before I ran out of stock. Now that I'm back, I think I checked today and I was like the 3rd spot. So yeah, it's definitely something that I need to improve on, and it's kind of like it hurts you bad.
I have this graph here from a previous presentation, so let me just bring this up.
So yeah, like our you know, our jungle sticks, like I said, we're like jumping between 1st and 2nd spot before I ran out of stock. I was out of stock for like 5 days, and then now we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, I'm probably gonna like end up doing a small giveaway just to try to jump back in the number 1 or 2 spot, which again costs money, right?
Most definitely, yeah. As soon as you, I mean, that's the right way to think about it. Stockouts will happen, and you're trying to predict things that just aren't predictable, and that's the hard part. But at least you can try to get some better data and make your numbers and your calculations work so that you can avoid as much as possible. But it isn't the end of the world if you have a stockout. But if we can prevent it, it's better. So can you see my screen, this graph that I have up here?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. So this can be a little confusing. This is from a different presentation, but we have 2 different products. So both of them sell the same number of units per day, and they have the same amount of profit per day. So on average, each item produces $200 in profit per day. So it's a pretty good seller. Let's just say we sell 20 units and $10 each a unit we make. It's not a crazy seller, but it's a decent one. And the first product has an average of 3 stockout days per year. Now we're just going to look at an annual average, right? Or 3 stockout days per month, excuse me. The second product has an average of 1 stockout day per month. So if you looked over the course of the year, it went out of stock 1 day every month. So there was a total of 12 days throughout the year, whereas the other one was 36. You'd be surprised. It's pretty easy to add up to 36 if you have 4 or 5 different stockouts throughout the year. And it's a pretty simple equation. We just looked at if we reduced our stockout by 1/3, so comparing the 2 products, we made almost $5,000 more on the 1 stockout per month versus the 3. That's a big chunk of change when it's only $200 in profit a day. This isn't a crazy seller, but it's $5,000 more profit, not revenue, profit that you would have made at the end of the year.
Yeah, so it was pretty obvious that it makes a pretty big difference, right? Just losing a few days here, a few days there. So yeah. So what? All this being said, let's get into the good stuff then of how do we prevent this from happening, or what's the next steps we need to learn?
Definitely. I think that so I made up we have 2 tools. I think Gen can share a link. I made 2 tools for everyone here today. They're just Excel templates, Excel tools. I will share my screen once again. Okay, so you can see my screen, Greg. You can see this FBA calculator that I made up.
Yeah, we can see it. If it's possible to maybe make it a little bit bigger on your screen or zoom into it, because we're seeing your whole screen.
Most definitely. Sorry.
No worries. There we go. That's better.
Okay. Now, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty a little bit here, and there are definitions down below. And once again, if Gen wants to share the link, or if someone can share the link to this, this is available for everyone to download and they can use going forward. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, and it's a pretty helpful tool.
It's currently at the top of the chat box, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Gen. So I'll get into this a little bit. Now, these aren't crazy calculations, but when you're forecasting or when you're determining, number one, how many units to reorder and when to reorder, you have to think about a few different things first. So the first thing that we want to think about is how many days of inventory do I want to buy? So this first product, I'm going to say, all right, I want to buy 3 months worth of inventory, and I'll go into actually why I do that. That should be after. Lead time. I'll go back to days to buy. Lead time. This is a really important one. A lot of folks forget about lead time, or they underestimate their lead time. If you're importing from China, or even if you're shipping just from New York to the middle of the country, you always want to think about a worst case scenario lead time in terms of days. No matter what tool you're using, even if you're doing your own calculations, this is an important point. Lead time, let's just say that I'm a private label seller and I'm importing from China. And 90% of the time it comes to me in 30 days. So it's from the day I pay that manufacturer or the day I place that PO to the day that it actually arrives at Amazon, 90% of the time it's 30 days. But 10% of the time it's 45 days. So there's delays at customs, there's delays with my wire transfer, there's delays in manufacturing, whatever those reasons may be. What happens is if you use 30 days as a lead time instead of 45 days, 10% of the time you're going to have approximately a 15-day stock out. So if I'm a private label seller, or if I'm an Amazon seller, I would rather take 15 extra days worth of inventory and have them in stock at Amazon than be out of stock for 15 days. Hopefully that, if you guys can go ahead and chime in if that's too complicated, or if you need me to reiterate anything, it is kind of a tough point. The thing you want to think about here is, what is my worst case scenario lead time? So in this case, I'm going to say, all right, a lot of times it comes in 25 days, but I'm going to add an extra 5 days for delays. So my lead time to get this product received at Amazon, now it's received, not just delivered here to my warehouse and then back out to Amazon. It's delivered to Amazon, so 30 days. Now, I'm going to go back to how many days of inventory I want to buy, because this is an important point. You never want to buy fewer days of inventory than your lead time. So I want to say 90 days or 60 days. I want to buy double of what my lead time is. If you buy too few, if I were to buy 15, it means at any given time I'm significantly increasing the chance of a stock out because I have multiple orders at the supplier at any given time. Once again, that's important no matter what tool you're using. Even if you're just doing your calculations by hand with a calculator, always purchase more inventory than your lead time, significantly more. So in this case, I would probably do 90 because 30 days is a pretty long lead time.
Hey, Jeremy, would you mind zooming in a little bit?
Yeah, sorry.
Focusing on? Thanks.
Perfect.
How's that? Is that better for you guys?
Yep, that looks good.
Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully that's more helpful. So the first two columns, all this is this is a simple spreadsheet for you. It has a bunch of calculations already added into it, and you just need to fill out column C through H with your products. So we're filling out this first iPad. I want to buy 90 days worth of inventory. My lead time is 30 days. Currently, I have 350 in stock at Amazon, and that I have 100 inbound, right, from my local warehouse. So this is your current inventory at Amazon. You get it right out of Seller Central. This is your inbound quantity. A lot of times, your own calculations are going to be more accurate than what you'll see in Seller Central. We won't go down that road, but those numbers are often not correct. I'll skip over safety stock, and then velocity. This piece of it is really, really important. And it's a really easy one. It's simply how many units do you sell on average per day? And in this case, I'm going to say I sell 15 units per day. Actually, you know what? I'll lower it down. Let's say we sell 12 per day. Now, something that I want to point out on velocity that's easy to forget. If you had a stock out during the month, you have to be very careful that you're not calculating your average. So let's just say I sold 300 in a month, and so my average out of 30 days is 10 per day. But if I was out of stock half that time, so if I had zero inventory and my product wasn't for sale, I actually would have sold 600. So my velocity would have been double. It's kind of a difficult concept to understand at first, but it's a very important one. So just kind of reiterate, you only want to look at your velocity while you're in stock. So if I was selling 20 a day while I was in stock, your velocity should be 20, not averaged out over the course of the month after you had your stock out.
And Jeremy, just to interrupt real quick, isn't that like the biggest flaw of Seller Central's estimates? Because like sometimes I'll see, like I guess I don't know for sure how they calculate them, but sometimes like if I've been out of stock a little bit, it just seems way off. Is that what you found too, or?
Most definitely, yeah. They've gotten slightly better about it, but it's still not that accurate. They will tell you that you sold 10 every day when you actually sold 15 or 20 because they didn't. You're just out of stock. Sure. You're exactly right. And if your velocity isn't correct, it's garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't put the right data, if you don't put the right inputs into your actual calculation, then it doesn't really, you might as well just guess for the rest of it.
Yeah,
So
makes
that's
sense.
a very good point. Thanks for bringing that up, Greg.
All right, sorry to interrupt. I'll let you get
No,
back
that's
at
a good one. And then the last piece is this is a difficult one. So this is what we call safety stock. Safety stock, this is tough when you're using a tool like this and you're not using a software. But it's just extra stock that you have on hand. It's almost like your insurance against having a swing in your sales velocity. This will depend upon how long your lead time is and how high your velocity is. So let's just say, in this case, you know what? I'm going to say I want 10 extra days as my safety stock. So I want 120 units. The way I did that, by the way, is I took 12 times 12 units per day times 10 days. In this case, you're just kind of guessing. But it's important that you include something there. Once again, this is your insurance. It's only 120 units. It's not a massive amount, but it's insurance against, all right, I didn't expect a big bump in my sales velocity, or I didn't expect a 5-day extra delay in my lead time because it got held up in customs. That is a very important piece of being able to reorder on time and avoiding stockouts. So I included that for you here in this equation. A lot of tools or a lot of folks that are doing it themselves, they never include that data, which is important. That's a good input. All right. So now I put all my inputs in here, and now the tool is telling me, based upon selling 12 per day and what I have in stock and what I have inbound, I need to reorder the reorder point is 480, which means at this particular time, now this changes all the time. This isn't something you can just set once and go off this number. But when my stock gets down to 480, I need to reorder this product. Now, this is telling me that I should have reordered from my supplier, since it says -10 days ago. It doesn't mean that I'm going to have a stock out for 10 days, but there is a very high likelihood that I'm in trouble right now if I place this order. If I don't place this order today, I should have ordered this product 10 days ago. So if somebody's sitting here after this webinar putting their numbers into this tool, and they start seeing negatives, you need to get on the horn and start getting your purchase orders ready. And then the number of units you need to buy. Once again, I said this at the beginning of the webinar, it's more important to focus on when to buy than how many units to buy. I can't stress that enough. Just because Seller Central is telling you 1,100 units and this tool is telling you 1,100 units doesn't mean they're equally as good. It's more important as to when it's telling you to buy.
This is awesome, Jeremy. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's fantastic.
Just zoom in just a little bit as well. Sorry.
I'm sorry. What was that?
Can you just zoom in a little bit more as well, so I think people can see better, if possible. But then go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
I was just going to say there's some chatter in the chat box about this is all like seems fairly complicated or pretty complicated, and I just want to kind of like throw in that obviously like Forecastly is an inventory management and forecasting tool, so it's going to do all this for you. However, like when I talk to Jeremy about coming on the webinar, I was like, look, we don't like to do like sales pitches as webinars. We just want to give out like free tools, free information, free content, and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, that's the reason that that's why the reason he graciously made this free tool, and we're kind of going over this way. So you don't have to spend any money if you don't want. If it does seem complicated, you of course can look into Forecastly, but I just wanted to kind of answer that because there was some chat in there about that.
Great.
So Jeremy, I haven't had a chance to play with this at all. But from your experience in putting it together, like which columns are the most sensitive to change? As in, like, which ones have the most impact on the reorder point and days until order?
Definitely your velocity. So if you don't get your velocity correct, then that's an important one. So that's a great question. Again, if you underestimate your velocity, you're going to throw everything else off. So that's probably the most important. Is that helpful?
Yeah, but then we did have a good question from somebody they've been selling since August and are trying to prepare for the fourth quarter and holidays. How would you recommend doing that if you don't know your velocity if you don't have a historical sales
Sure.
velocity?
So you're estimating your velocity in that case. You're looking at the category and seeing how it performs. So if I sell, let's make up a product. If I sell office supplies and I do 3 times velocity, then I have to plan carefully. I don't have an easy answer for that, but there are a couple different things you can do. If you want to look at your number of units, this is going to throw off your days until order because your current velocity is not 36. But if I think I'm going to sell 3 times, all I have to do is do that, and then it jacks up my number of units to sell. The other thing that you want to think about when it comes down to Q4, and we can talk a little bit more about this too, when it comes down to Q4 is you need to plan very, very carefully. You need to look at a calendar and think, all right, if I buy 30 days worth of inventory, or if I buy 90 days worth of inventory today, then and it arrives in 30 days from today, how many days is that going to last me? And if that brings us right into the holiday season, then I would recommend lowering down your days to buy, and then so buying a smaller quantity, and then plan on placing another order in the middle or the end of September, so that you can get closer and you're not investing a ton of money into your inventory right now.
Excellent. What do you think of, I think Google Keyword Planner is interesting. It's obviously a proxy for Google searches, but if you look up, say, Christmas lights, you'll see a low search volume in July, but then you can see an incremental growth in December. So maybe search volume as a proxy.
Most definitely, yeah. You hit the nail right on the head again. If you put it completely varies by category, so that the Google search volume is a great indicator. I just want to bring up kind of one point that you said, Greg, and that's this looks complicated because of the terms we're using, but don't be overwhelmed by that, by anybody that's using this for the first time. Like, once you play with this a couple times, you're going to realize it's just simple math. And then all the definitions are here down at the bottom for anyone that's like, all right, well, what did Jeremy say about lead time again? What did he say about current inventory? This is coming directly from Seller Central. This is coming directly from Seller Central. The number of days to buy. I think if anyone's been selling on Amazon, they have a pretty good idea as far as the number of days that they typically buy in terms of days of inventory. Lead time, this is going to be an important one. And then safety stock. Now, Gen brought up a good point as far as, like, he asked, what is the most important input here? You can mess with it a little bit. So watch, as you're playing with this later on tonight, look at these 3 columns down to the right and say, all right, well, what if I do a 45-day lead time worst case scenario? I should have ordered 25 days ago. Well, if I want to be safe right now and my lead time is 25, I should have ordered 5 days ago, and here's how many units it's telling me to order. Now, this is not perfect, but this is a million times better than just guessing off of Seller Central. It's giving you a very good estimate as far as number of units and when to buy. You don't really need the reorder point. This should probably be hidden. These 2 columns, J and K, are the most important.
Excellent.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely good, and like kind of the basics. What would you say? Hopefully, I'm not interrupting your train of thought here. Or like some of the biggest. Some of you are obviously like very in tune with forecasting and where kind of people go wrong. If you just say like a few spots, a place. I can't talk tonight. A few places that people usually go wrong with forecasting on Amazon and ordering the right amount of inventory. What would you say are like those areas, or a few tips for them?
Sure. I'm going to just talk here. So that's a great question, Greg. I think one of the main ones, which I already and you actually brought up, is that they don't accurately calculate their velocity. Now, they're not thinking about how many days they were out of stock during a current month. Another thing is that can really throw people off is that they're not properly accounting for what they have inbound. If you have too many orders going out, if you have multiple orders out with a supplier at a given time, it's relatively easy to forget that you've placed an order for an item already. That's a small one, but that's a very important one, and I think it happens to everyone as you get larger on Amazon.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that, and I know there's a lot of sellers that are way larger than I am, so that's I know that definitely happens.
The other piece that I already spoke about, but is lead time. Just not thinking about lead time. If you don't accurately account for lead time in your equation, you just don't order soon enough. That's really what it comes down to. It's a pretty easy concept, but it isn't an easy number to calculate. So you want to think about, what is my worst case scenario? Let's just say I'm a wholesale reseller and I ship from Connecticut, where I'm located right now, to Pennsylvania most of the time, but then sometimes I have to ship to California. It's kind of like I said before, I always want to calculate my lead time based on that California shipment, not on the shorter one, because a few days extra of inventory is not going to kill you. It's not going to put you out of business. But if you have a few days stock out every couple months, that's a good chunk of change potentially, depending on the product.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the other one, I'm just kind of going through, like looking at the inputs as far as mistakes that I see relatively often. Another one would be days to buy. This is a smaller one, but they don't buy enough inventory based upon their lead time, and we can talk about this more when we talk about ordering new products. But if my lead time is 45 days, don't buy 45 days worth of inventory, because what's going to happen is that's immediately going to get into Amazon, and it might be too late to place another order with your supplier to avoid a stock out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think probably a lot of people, I'd say on their first orders also kind of like underestimate how long it's going to get into Amazon, especially if you're shipping ocean, because I know I used to be really guilty of this. I'm still a little bit guilty. They're like, okay, your freight forwarder is like, oh yeah, it takes 25 days on the boat, and your
because they want the business, right? They're gonna they talk it up.
They're right. Once like it gets on the boat and gets off the boat, it's about 25 days. But like your factory and your freight forwarder don't include that. Okay, well, we missed this boat, so it has to get on the boat next Thursday, and
I forgot to tell you it was held up at customs for 3 days.
Yeah, and
there's a backup at the port.
We don't have any trucks available today, so we can't take it down to the port. And again, it missed the boat or whatever, it gets pushed to the next one. So it's like you have to be conservative on those estimates. Yeah, especially some products tend to get like hung up in customs or get inspected more often.
We don't need to go in. You brought up a great point, and that's kind of the air versus sea thing. That is another mistake, and thanks for bringing that up, that I see quite often. And folks just look at their profit and loss of a single item. They just look at like, all right, here's how I'm going to buy 1,000 units, and here's how much money I can make if I ship via sea. And then here's how much money I can make on those 1,000 units if I ship via air. And the problem is that your lead time is so long. The longer your lead time is, the higher the likelihood of having a stock out. I can't stress that enough. I'm a huge proponent of air shipments, at least until you've shipped. Now, some items, there's always outliers, right? Maybe some items you can't do via air. So don't tell me that, or I'm not trying to tell you that you have to do it on every single item and every single shipment. But especially as it's a new product, you're able to kind of keep up with that varying demand if you're shipping via air than via sea. As far as numbers are concerned, comparing one to another, a lot of times folks just, like I said, they just look at the bottom line, and they're not thinking about, well, I'm saving $2,000 via sea, but it goes out of stock for 2 weeks, I lose $4,000. well, maybe I should have shipped via air because I would have made, I just basically made myself $2,000 shipping via air.
Right.
We can go on for hours with this discussion, and it's a debatable topic, and it comes down to every item. But I just kind of challenge folks, like, think long and hard about what option you're choosing. I really like air because you can cut down on your lead time, meaning you have to invest less money in product. So you can order smaller orders more frequently. And B, you can keep up with varying demand. So if in 30 days your lead time doubles, it's not the end of the world because you can kind of keep up with that because now your lead time is only 20 days instead of 40 or 50 days.
Yeah, something else I'll throw in there, and I didn't really appreciate this until I started using Forecastly, and it gives you the different numbers about this. But the point I want to make is that it's also like a cash flow thing, So it's like, okay, I'm just starting out. I only have $10,000 to start. If I want to invest in 2 products, I'm spending $5,000 on each. If those are hung up on a boat for like a month instead of being sold, it's like, okay, I saved a little bit of money in the ocean shipment, but as a result, that money wasn't working for me, making a profit those days, which I then could reinvest into more inventory and more products and so forth. So it gets complicated, right? To be thinking about all that without some helpful tools and stuff.
It gets very complicated, yeah. What we're going to do is, towards the end of the year, we have a few things coming out before then, but we're working on an air versus sea calculator, probably a free tool like this, so that when someone's debating, do I go versus air versus sea, especially for a new product, it should be pretty helpful.
Nice, right on. I know you already have some stuff in there to kind of help with that as far as.
Inside Forecastly, yeah, but I'm talking about for folks that.
Free tool, cool.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a big proponent of. Everyone's not a fit for software. If you only have a few items, these Excel spreadsheets are going to be a perfect fit.
Yeah.
And then if we can do the same thing for an air versus sea calculator, that would be great as well.
Awesome. A few questions in here just about, can you go over again how much inventory you'd recommend or the thumb you use for how much inventory to order based on your lead time? So if my lead time is 30 days, what do you recommend?
So it depends a little bit, but I'll give an answer. I'm not going to skirt around it. I'm a politician. But I just want to kind of give everyone a heads up. It depends upon your cash situation. It depends upon how long the product's been around. So do you have a pretty far as what your demand is? I like to say order 3 times what your lead time is. I think it's a pretty good number. If it's a brand new product, then it's different. We should talk about that in a minute. But if it's a brand new product, that's going to be different. But if it's an existing product, I typically recommend to do about 2 to 3 times, closer to 3, your lead time. So on that spreadsheet that I mentioned before, you just put in your lead time as 30 days and put in your to buy number as 90 days. So I want to buy 90 days worth of inventory. That isn't when you place an order. That means that you want to buy 90 days worth of inventory.
Right. Cool. That's a good rule of thumb. I think a lot of people can use. So unless you were thinking of something else, let's kind of chat about then how much, because probably a lot of people are in this boat. Jungle Scout's obviously product research. A lot of the people on our email list and stuff are probably doing product research, finding new products. Let's kind of talk about, all right, I found this awesome product. How much am I going to order?
That's an awesome question. So the second tool that I made, and let me share my screen again here. All right, just to confirm, everyone can see this FBA calculator or the initial quantity calculator here?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, let's talk through it. This one is slightly more complicated, and this is a general recommendation for you. So once again, mess with your inputs when you're trying to determine what quantity to buy. Just mess with the inputs and try to work through it. So we want to estimate sales velocity. This is probably the toughest piece, Greg, and you can speak to this better than I can, but if we talk about sales velocity, so I'm estimating based upon my rank how many units per day I'm going to buy. You're the pro on that. I'm not the pro on estimating sales velocity for a new product. So maybe if you can add a couple points
I'll hop in
there.
real quick. We can drop in a link to our sales estimator. A lot of you guys, I imagine, have Jungle Scout. Of course, Jungle Scout estimates how many units your competitors are selling on a monthly basis. So that's a good gauge. You can gauge it based off of, okay, this is what I estimate my sales rank's going to be. And if you can estimate your sales rank, you can use this estimator tool. Again, that's just free. That I just dropped in the chat box. So yeah, those are kind of like two easy ways, and then I'll let you go ahead. Move on, Jeremy.
Hey, Jeremy, just to clarify, is this the replenishment calculator?
The link is, I think the link that you shared is different. If you can give me.
Yeah, real quick, I'll stop you, Jeremy. I think maybe actually on the email when they enter it there, I think maybe that link was broken, or both of the links downloaded the same Excel sheet or something. So maybe just after this, anyone who entered their email on that JS Free Tools page, you could just maybe resend the link or something, or do you have a better way?
Yeah, I'll I can easily send out an email to everyone afterwards. I apologize. Let me just check that the right link was shared.
Hey, no worries. I do stuff like that all the time. While he's looking at that, I guess I can talk just one more minute on the estimated sales velocity. How I normally do this is, so for instance, I'll search marshmallow sticks, right? So just like we did on Amazon, I made the search for marshmallow sticks, and after I would make that search, I'd usually open up the Jungle Scout extension. If you don't have it, you could use our free sales estimator, and then I would look. It's like if I was ranked in this top 10 spots or these top 5 spots, approximately how many would I sell? And that's what I'd use for my initial sales velocity. So I'm looking at my screen right now. I just did it for marshmallow sticks. It looks like the average for the top 10 sellers is about 800, 900, maybe 1,000 units. So that's what I'd estimate. I'd say, okay, I'm going to estimate I'm going to sell 30 units per day. And that's what I put in for that, the number on the spreadsheet there. So yeah.
Awesome. I will, yeah, apologize to everyone if that link isn't, well, I think the link gets you to the page, but then it's the email. It sounds like the email isn't working. Or the link that's in the email isn't working is what it sounds like. So I apologize.
We'll an email, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take care of it afterwards. Obviously, still go to that page, put your email in, and then that way we'll have a list of everyone that I can just send a quick email out to afterwards.
Perfect. Thanks for that.
I'm going to share my screen again. But thank you all for giving the heads up on that. I'm sorry. It's funny how no matter how many times you go through these things, like I checked it before the call. So
it's a live webinar. It's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
The pressure is on, so it happens. So what I'll do here is, all right, Gregg, thanks for adding the points about that estimated sales velocity. So you want to think about roughly, and these are all assumptions. So it still requires a certain level of human input, but at least you can have some pretty good calculations and some pretty good data that's going into it to make it even better. But I'm going to say I estimate that I can sell 20 units per day. Next thing is I'm going to use ReviewKick to promote 300 units when that new product comes in. My product cost is $5.75. We'll make something up. My lead time via C is 90 days. Let's lower it down a little bit. Let's say it's 60 days, and it takes 40 days via air. So this is a little comparison for you, and I'll show you how that changes. So once again, I just looked at my product cost. How much am I buying it for? My C lead time, my air lead time. This is not considering the cost between the two. So this is not making a decision for you to go via C via air. It's just making a quantity recommendation. In this case, I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to sell via air. And I apologize. Hopefully, this is as zoomed in as I can get it with Excel. And then the last piece, and this is kind of a tough one, is you want to always plan ahead when you have a new product. So what I'm thinking here is I want to buy my first initial inventory test order, and then I'm going to plan on, if all goes as I want it to go, I'm going to sell 300 units via Snag Shout, or I'm going to promote 300 units, and then I'm going to do 20 units a day sales. And at that point, it's going to make a recommendation. So I look at my number, and it says buy 1,700 units. Now, all right. Well, what if I want to review kick 200 units? It changes it for me. And what if I only sell 15 a day? It's making a recommendation. This is really, really important, the suggested order size when it's a new product. And when it's a new product, order size is really important because a lot of folks buy so little inventory that that set themselves up for failure because they can't cover the lead time of 60 days. So like even when their product first lands at Amazon's door, if they hit their goal of 15 units per day, they're never going to have enough inventory. Like if I only bought 1,000 units and I hit all my numbers, so I give away my promo units and then I sell 15 units a day, I'm going to miss out on 250 sales. The one thing, this is a little bit complicated, I understand that. But this piece is interesting. So we talked about kind of comparing air versus sea. If I ship via air, I need to invest $7,000 as my first order. If I ship via sea, I need to invest almost $9,000 in my first order. So if I'm tight on cash, I want to look at sea. I want to look at air. Now, the last input that I skipped over is estimated arrival date at Amazon. So let's just assume I already have a product. I already have it on its way. It's going to arrive on the 31st. It's just telling me here's when I'm estimated to place my next order, and then here's when I'm estimated to be out of stock. I know there's a lot of inputs right here. This is an extremely useful tool. It does a lot of math that's not easy, but once you get the hang of it and once you kind of read through the instructions, it's not that difficult to understand. And as you mess with the inputs, you can see how it affects your orders. Well, what if I sell 20 units a day and not 15? Well, I should really buy 1,600 units. Any questions about this?
No, I think it makes sense to me. I think good takeaways from that are you can just kind of play around with it, select your shipping option, how long it would take, and then I think get some good information from that. Or say, hey, if my sales velocity went from 20 to 25 or 20 to 30 or whatever, how would that change? So no, that's great. I think I'm going to start using this myself.
I think that thanks. It's out there. Just throw your email in there, and we'll email it to you. Hopefully, the link will work when we send it. But yeah, I think I saw something in there as far as how many promo units do you recommend? That isn't my area of expertise. I don't really know a whole lot about that. I just threw 200 in here as an estimate. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, of course this could be like a whole different webinar, but
yeah.
If I just gave a quick answer to that, I usually do a lot less than 200. I usually do like how many of my the top selling competitors are doing on a daily basis. So when we were doing marshmallow sticks, I think the top person was selling, let's say, 500 per month. So then I would give away like 15 a day for like 5 days, and that would be about equivalent to how many he was selling. And then of course I would get reviews from all those. So yeah, that's just the quick answer. But again, that could be a whole different webinar.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
I will. Hopefully this was helpful. We'll get it out to everyone. It sounds like it's kind of the link is working for some and not for others. So we'll I'll follow up with an email to everyone that put their email address in there so they can ensure they actually get the tool that they signed up for.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So yeah, this is fantastic. I think yeah, it's really good information, and I just probably can't emphasize enough. Like, it took me like a while to realize like how important like good inventory management is. Like, not only for your cash flow situation, but also for like the money you lose during stockouts. It's like, it's kind of funny that like not more people are hearing about. I guess because it's kind of like the unsexy thing to talk about, right? Like, everyone's talking about like,
it's sexy to talk about marketing, and that's the fun thing, right?
yeah, or like, you know, how to take better images or whatever. That's, I mean, that's the stuff like we don't want to talk about. That's like, I guess, like a little bit more fun. But if you really like probably talk to some of the bigger sellers and like see, hey, are they losing more money due to like bad images or bad PPC or bad inventory management and so on, it'd probably like the number one reason they're losing money, I'd say, is probably from inventory management. I think like that's what I'm probably most guilty of. So
obviously I agree with that, and that's why we developed Forecastly. And that was it's easy to. The other thing that a lot of, when we talk about like these Excel tools, and a lot of folks say, yeah, I'm losing money and I don't understand why. I just can't get the inventory management right. Or sometimes they are using a tool. You know, it's a typo is an easy thing to really mess up your inventory. Like if you're using an Excel spreadsheet, either one of these or one of your own, a lot of folks have something that they've developed themselves or they've gotten off the internet. Typos can really mess things up, and the other thing is that they don't think about safety stock. That's one of the reasons why a tool can help. It's not a fit for everybody, but it can really separate from using Excel or something like that, because it can make a smart, scientific recommendation of what your safety stock should be versus, versus one of those Excel tools.
Nice.
So, Greg, you're lucky. I have not had the chance to see Forecastly in app. Can you take a couple seconds just to kind of show us how this might look in app and the benefits we might not get with the Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, I can share my screen. Can you see it now? This is an account I set up for Jungle Sticks. So there's only one product in here. Not quite as cool as when there's a whole bunch of products, but yeah, this is what it would look like. Do you want to kind of like walk us through? You're the expert at it, Jeremy. I've only been using it for a few months now.
So I think the best thing to do would be to scroll to the top, Greg, and then go to Forecast.
Okay.
Let's kind of get into the meat a little bit. So what we can do here is we can look at, it's very similar to that Excel spreadsheet, but it's pulling in almost real time what your inventory is. So as we look through here and we look through the columns, it's saying, here's how many you sold in 30 days. Here's how many days it was in stock. So in your particular instance, it was out of stock for 2/3 of a day in the last 30 days. It tells you how many you sold per day, and then what your current inventory is. It looks like you have units inbound, so you have 3,000 units inbound. And then it's telling you that you need to place another order for your inventory in 68 days. So that's good. That means you're right on track. You have 3,000 units inbound. It seems like you placed a pretty good, pretty sizable order. And then,
can we make I think everybody's seeing Jeremy. Can you make yourself the presenter?
Yeah, sorry about that. 1 second. How's that?
Yeah, that's good. And then if you could zoom in a little bit, then we'd be perfect.
Just refresh your page after you zoom in.
All right. Nice.
All right. This makes a lot more sense when we can see it now. I could see it. I thought everyone else could. I'm sorry. So yeah, just to kind of go through it again with the Jungle Sticks product here, we're looking at 30 days of sales history. We've sold 690 in the last 30 days. Looks like you had a slight stock out there, 2/3 of a day. Do me a favor, Greg. Can you just see the sales history? Let's look at 90 days.
Oh, that didn't work, guys.
It keeps switching to Greg's screen.
Sorry. Still, Can you guys see my screen or no?
Still seeing Jeremy.
Still seeing Jeremy. Give me 1 second. Let me stop presenting and try to do it again. So, everyone. How about now? Can you guys see my screen now?
All right. All good.
Excellent.
How about when I talk, does it go back to me? Okay. Good. All right, so we're good to go now, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
So we're just kind of going through our product here again. So we brought up 90 days. I can see now you've sold 2,147 in the last 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
You had a 15-day stock out, just under a 15-day stock out, because I'm looking at your number of days column, meaning it was in stock for 75 days.
Uh-huh.
You're selling 28 a day. Nice work. It's looking at your current inventory. I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but it does some really cool stuff as far as determining what your current inventory is. It's not just looking at Amazon and saying, here's what you have in stock. It looks at reserved, it breaks it all down, and then it goes from there. It has 3,000 units inbound. So right now, based on your 260 units, you have 9 days of inventory in stock. That isn't a simple calculation. Somebody might divide that up and say, yeah, the math doesn't work, but that's what it is, including your safety stock. And you have 42 days to place another order with your supplier. So keep an eye on that. As that gets closer to 0, you're going to want to place another order. And right now it says you don't have to place another order, so it's telling you 0.
Right.
So let's take one thing I wanted to point out was you were out of stock for 15 days. If you go all the way to the end, you see where it says 15-day COZO? That stands for cost of a stock out.
And that means profit, right? So it's like I lost this much.
That's
so
straight profit. So in the last 90 days, you lost almost $3,000 in profit for you lost almost $3,000 in profit.
Right.
Based on that stock out, that's a sizable number. That one product right there would have paid for the forecastly fees for well over a year for you.
I wish I met you a long time ago, so I would always have this.
You should have started using this a long time ago, yeah.
I know.
But can you do me a favor? Can you just click on the SKU? I want to look at. I think it'd be good to look at one thing. And then there's a bar underneath the large graph. If you can just zoom all the way out, that's there. So this is interesting here. The green bars are your quantities that you had on hand. So it's interesting to watch your quantities go up and down, up and down, up and down. And then the gray line, you had a similar graph to this in one of your blog posts, I believe. The gray line is the number of units that you sold. It's very interesting because you can see as soon as that thing went out of stock, your velocity went way, way down. You were selling about 40 units a day, maybe a little bit less than that, maybe 35 units a day before that big, long stock out.
Yeah, and so like both times. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
so like right here I was selling better and better and better. Then it took me like a week to really kind of recoup to get back to that. And then same thing now. From this last stock out, it was only a few days, and I still haven't recouped from that.
As we look at this, Gregg, I realize one point that you talk about as far as mistakes that people make. A lot of folks will include their promotional units that they do on ReviewKick. Like they'll include those promotional units, and then they'll think, all right, I sold 500 in the month. Well, 200 of those were promotional units, so you need to factor those out, and you actually sold 300. Forecastly does all that for you, but in this case, if you're doing it yourself, it is still possible. You can just figure out, all right, I did the promotion for 300 units and I sold 600, so I really only sold 600 in this period.
Oh, nice. I didn't realize Forecast did that for you. That's even better.
Yeah, it can factor them all out, so it determines what your true sales velocity is instead of what that promotional sales velocity is. Because you don't want to include promotional units in your sales velocity. That's a big mistake. What you'll do is you'll end up over-investing.
Right. Yeah, totally. Cool.
So hopefully that was helpful. I don't think we need to go into too much more detail, but I think this is a kind of a good comparison as far as what you're looking at, how an Excel spreadsheet compares to a software.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I think I think it's a good point that you said, and makes me realize you're a good guy, not just like a sleazy salesman. That
Thanks. I didn't come on here to sell. I honestly didn't come on here to sell Forecastly. That's why I made the free tools for everyone. I think they're a lot better than just making up your own Excel spreadsheet for most people.
Yeah, so I was saying, like how you said earlier, like it's not like the best fit for everyone, right? If you only have one product, then yeah, you may or may not need it. More likely not. But once you start getting a few products, it's like, man, there's a lot of things to think about as far as like factoring out promotional units and all that stuff. So that's cool. Emily says, "Wow, this tool is the shit." I won't finish that, but that's cool.
Hopefully she's talking about Forecastly since the link to the Excel spreadsheet didn't work. But that's either one. Hopefully the Excel spreadsheet, I put a lot of time into that, so hopefully that's a good one too.
And a few people asked, this is being recorded. It's going to be on our YouTube channel to download. We also normally do a recap of kind of the main points. We'll post that on our blog with a recording of this webinar. So yeah, if you missed half or you need to leave now or whatever, we will have the recording up.
Hey, I just want to point out, I did put together a promotion for everyone. If anyone is interested in testing Forecastly out, it's a special promotion. I want to point out it ends on Friday. So let me just share my screen again here. And then maybe Gen can share this, or someone can just share this link that's here. It's a bit.ly link.
Yep.
It's bit.ly. All right, awesome. So my intention wasn't to come on here and sell Forecastly, but if anyone is interested, we don't really do discounts, but this is exclusive for the Jungle Scout crew. It's 30% off your first month, over and above your 2-week trial. So if you do decide to go forward with it, even after the trial, it'll be 30% off, 30% off that first month. Once again, it's only good till Friday. So if you're watching this next week, I apologize. We don't really do discounts. So if you miss it, sorry you missed it. But hopefully that's the benefit of watching live. So let's celebrate.
All right, with the champagne glasses. Excellent. Yeah, that's fantastic. I think everyone really appreciates this, Jeremy. You're getting a lot of love in the chat box. Not only your tools, but Forecastly and the free tools and lots of good content. So yeah, thank you very much. I'm trying to think what else we have missed or haven't talked about. Is there anything else that we need to leave the viewers with to make sure that they remember, or any extra tips?
I think my biggest takeaway would be the lead time. And then, well, I guess two. For existing products, you want to think long and hard about that lead time. You want to try to get that lead time as short as possible. So negotiating with your suppliers, is it really going to take 45 days to make this thing? Like, can we get it down to 30? What can we do? How can we change the design? That type of thing. And then the last piece, as far as new products is concerned, is thinking about the second order. So using that tool, once we get the link fixed, to when you place that second order, you gotta, even if you're not using the tool, like think ahead to if I'm planning on placing another order in 30 days, am I actually ordering enough inventory to last me that long? That's important.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good point. Again, any last words before we wrap it up here?
No, it's been fantastic, and Jeremy, thanks so much for your resources, wisdom, and sharing.
Hey, thanks for letting me hang out with everyone.
Absolutely. So just to recap some things here, guys, Gen or myself will put together a blog post after this. We'll kind of go over Jeremy's main talking points and some of the importance of proper forecasting and inventory management. If you entered your link in that opt-in to get Jeremy's free tools, he can shoot out a little email after this with the correct link for that Excel download. So if you want that, make sure you've entered email on there. He graciously hooked us up with a discount, 30% off the first month. So that's the link if you want it. And then we can also probably include that in an email after this. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, or if you have questions about the software, I'm sure Jeremy would be happy to help you. Is there a best place for them to get in touch with you?
Probably email. Right now, by the way, I answer all customer support emails because I like being connected. So it's simply support@forecastly.com.
Nice.
That goes right to like our way. If it goes to my personal email, it would just go into the funnel. Support emails are way more important. So support@forecastly.com, and I'll be the one that gets back to you.
Awesome. That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, and lots of love in the chat box. So thanks again. So
cool.
Thank you everyone for joining
helpful.
us. Yeah, I learned a lot. Man, my biggest takeaway is like it really hits you like when you look at like, hey, every 15 days being out of stock of just jungle sticks costs you like $2,800, right? Is that what we said? So it's like, holy cow, that's a lot of money over time. So I'm definitely going to be better about my inventory management, and I'm going to thank Forecastly for the help of that.
You're welcome. Glad we can help.
All right. So thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Be on the lookout for some emails from us. So take care.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.